Welcome to episode 1455 of The Sleeper and the Bust. I am Justin Mason, live from First Pitch, Arizona. Usually Paul would be doing this, but he decided he was not going to show for this episode, apparently. But I am joined by two much better analysts, and that is Joe Arico and Jason Collette. How you guys doing?
Doing well. Me in this empty chair here that should be Paul, not here. So doing fantastic. Besides, if your name doesn't start with the letter J, you're not allowed up here today.
That's a good rule to have, yeah. He can be Joel or he can stay away. No, it's great to be up here. I've been coming here for 4 years now, and I think this has arguably been my favorite year to this point. So really looking forward to this. We got a great episode planned.
And you're 100% healthy this year.
And I'm healthy.
Yeah, no kidney stones this year, which is
for me in the past.
perfect. We do have a Paul lookalike in the building who may join us at some point if Paul doesn't actually show up. Hopefully he will, but we're just going to continue without him. We have 10,000 people in this room waiting to hear us talk some fantasy baseball, and we have a lot of fantasy baseball to talk about. We're going to talk about some premium price surges after a breakout. There are going to be a number of guys this year in fantasy that their prices are going to jump tremendously from where they were because of what they did in the 2025 season. And so we're gonna just kind of discuss, are we willing to pay the prices that the early ADPs are starting to show? And we have to start with probably the biggest breakout that we saw in 2025, and that's Nick Kurtz. He went undrafted to ADP of 15 in these early NFBC drafts. That's 12 draft champions leagues. So we'll start here with you, Joe. Are you going to be paying a first-round price on Nick Kurtz, a guy who, really came out of nowhere? He was, drafted into Major League Baseball last year and then, had a huge breakout for fantasy managers. Are you paying that first-round price?
So I have nothing against Nick Kurtz. I think that he is going to be a phenomenal player for likely his entire career just based on the way his age 22 rookie season went. But paying a first-round price immediately feels a little bit rich for me. It's 117 games. It's shy of 500 appearances. It's just not enough of a sample size for me to pass up on so many talented players that are going right behind him. He's going ahead of Francisco Lindor, Tatis, Henderson, Kyle Tucker, Churio. There are a lot of more quote-unquote sure things in my eyes, whereas Nick Kurtz is probably a sure thing in terms of the power. He's probably going to give you 30-plus homers. I don't think he's hitting 290 again. He had a 364 BABIP. I think he's probably a 240 to 250 hitter. 31% strikeout rate. There are some things that kind of worry me a little bit for 2026 with Nick Kurtz. If he was a third rounder, I wouldn't really have a problem with it. But in the first round already in November, I can't do it personally.
He had a sub 80% zone contact, and when I mean sub, I'm not talking about, it was 79%. He was right near that 80% threshold I'm always talking about. It was 76%. The XBA was 255. I tend to agree with you. I think that Nick Kurtz is a guy that I love, and I'm glad I've got him on a few dynasty teams, but there's no way I'm paying a back end of the first round price on a guy like Nick Kurtz, even in Sacramento. What about you, Jason?
I'm not going to. It's just my nature. It's just, to be fair, as I saw Tim in the audience pointing, Kurtz broke out here this time last year. He was just killing it here in the AFL last year. And so for those that had that memory fresh in their mind, it was a nice bonus for them to be able to get him. And yeah, playing in Sacramento definitely was a factor. Combined with home and the way he mashed against righties, lefties were a concern. But for somebody to go from off the charts to first round, like Joe said, with all the guys, not only the talent that's going around him on overall ADP, but just at first base. If you take a look, Vlad 5 picks later, Pete Alonso 15 picks later, Bryce Harper 25 picks later, Rafael Devers another 25 picks later, Matt Olson. There's other guys that have done this multiple times instead of just once.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a special guest joining us straight from the Mexican restaurant where he decided was having lunch was more important than showing up on time. We got Paul Spora of Fangraphs. How you doing, my friend?
Hello. I'm right fucking here. You could have been here.
Believe me, we almost put
I sent myself.
Was it the waves of people that you had to kind of wade through that slowed you down getting here?
Yeah, and there were several who looked like me at the restaurant too. So I can't get away from it. Thank you for filling in, and I'll go ahead and take over the hosting duties now for you so that you can chime in. But with Nick Kurtz, I'm going to just agree with you guys real quick and just say there's no way. You can just not pay that. He is a huge strikeout risk, massive batting average risk. Could easily hit 2.25, 230. I don't think that's what he's going to do, but that's in the cards here. I just don't think that you can get me to pay 15 ADP. I don't know that I would pay second round necessarily either. He's great. It's exciting. This is just a losing bet, it seems like, more often than not with Kurtz. Anything else to add, Justin, since you were doing the hosting bit there before we move on to our next guy?
No, I mean, I think I said I'm kind of right in line with your guys' thinking. I think, too, like, this price point for Nick Kurtz is betting that there's more in the tank. And
Or at least like a full season repeat of like what he did for 6 months. But I
we've seen
can't
guys
see that.
like this before, maybe not to this level, that have like come on the scene. Like the guy I think about is Jeremy Pena, right? Jeremy Pena had that amazing rookie career, rookie season. Everybody got really excited for year 2, and he didn't like regress. There wasn't really much growth, and I think spending that kind of capital on a player that I don't see a ton of room for growth, especially in the batting average department. I think there's got to be regression there. I think it's just a losing proposition.
I mean, it's a little different because nothing's gonna change in this regard, but with Vlad Guerrero Jr. in 2021 and that nomadic season where he played in 3 different ballparks and put up massive numbers. In the next season, they went to a singular ballpark, and his numbers came not back down to earth, but back to where we expected him. But drafting-wise, he was still going top 5 overall after that massive season.
Yeah, that's actually a really good segue here because I want to get into our next guy here who is going to be changing park. And he is more of in the Vlad conversation here when you're talking about what Vlad was able to do in the minor league parks and then went back to Toronto and was just kind of, Vlad, but wasn't a god. Junior Caminero could be facing that, obviously close to you as a big Rays guy. But Junior Caminero went in the 75 to 80 range last year, thereabouts, up to 16, right behind Kurtz now. And let's go ahead and start with the Rays guy here. And he might trump both of what you guys are going to say here. But let's see what the Rays guy thinks about Junior Caminero. Again, shifting back to the Trop, how much does that hurt a guy who just hit 45 homers in a Steinbrenner minor league park?
You like how I set you up there, by the way? Okay, cool. So here, like, audience participation, I know since there's 10,000 people here, it's really going to be tough.
I think that third mic I gave you is causing a feedback.
Okay, that would be this one.
Was it that one? Sorry, you guys are going to have to just share.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's do this. All right. So audience participation, got to count 10,000 hands. Going to take some time. So we know Junior Caminero hit 45 home runs last year. Put your hand up if you think he hit 25 of them at home. All right. We have 1, 2, at least 25 of those home runs at home. Anybody go for 30? Okay. Junior Caminero hit 22 of his 45 home runs at home. So that's part of the challenge, but the thing I want to change, the thing I want to point out, watching him is the approach. He was 2 different hitters, home and away. At home in Steinbrenner Field, he truly was all fields approach, hitting home runs to all 3 fields. You go look at his spray charts at Baseball Savant, you will see this. He hit 313 at home with that approach. On the road, complete pull hitter. Home runs, I want to say 22 of the 23 home runs, all left field, all pull shots. He hit 218 on the road. So I'm more concerned about the batting average than I am the power. His power will play everywhere. But he truly had 2 different approaches, and now he's got to go to Tropicana Field. That Yandy Diaz has been able to hit home runs the opposite field. He's got legit power, as we were talking in one of the earlier sessions about opposite field power being a good leading indicator type of thing. But I'm more concerned about the batting average. And yeah, I would take the under on him hitting 40 home runs this year, but batting average-wise, that's where I really have some concerns.
Yeah, and I do think that is the major concern there with Caminero, because I don't think his power will fall off completely, but the Trop is difficult. Isaac has made it work there, though, so the power could be all right. Justin, Caminero, is he somebody that you're going to invest in at the premium cost that he has, and what do you think about him going back to the Trop?
If the price stays there, I'm probably not. I just think that there's
Where do you get comfortable? Let me jump in right quick there.
I'd say middle of the second round.
So just another handful of picks.
Yeah, I just
6,
think
7,
there's
8
too
picks.
many good guys at the back end of that first round, beginning of the second round, where I think he represents maybe the end of that elite tier of hitting,
Okay.
and not kind of in the middle of it. So one of the things I was trying to look up real quick while we were talking, but I'm not going to be able to. Like, he had 282 in the second half. So, like, the batting average did get better. The core contact skills got better as the season went on. This is a guy that has a really good hit tool, also has a ton of power. So, like, I'm not expecting him to fall off. Like, if you want him and your pick is 15, I don't have a problem with you saying, I'm just going to go get my guy, because what are you maybe giving up, like a couple picks of value? Who cares about that, right?
Because that's your only chance, right?
Yeah,
If
exactly.
you're at 16 or something,
you're not going to get him back
that's your
in
only
the
chance.
third, 3-4 turn. So, like, I don't have a problem with people making that pick. I don't think it's for me necessarily.
Sure.
I could, once I finish my projections, I could totally change my tune and be like, no, he actually, because of the drop off to third base or something like that, I could say he actually provides pretty decent value there at the back end of the first. But sitting here today, I'm probably not making that pick.
I think I know your answer, and as you pass the mic to Joe. Real quick, Justin, before you pass that mic, Kurtz or Caminero then at this price? I'm guessing Caminero.
Yeah, it's Caminero for sure.
Let me set you up with that then, Joe. Unless you got something to add on what we've heard about him going back to the Trop and everything. Caminero or Kurtz at this almost exact same price? Who do you like better?
I think because I'm a lot more comfortable with some of the later names at first, and I think third is honestly a wasteland
So
this year.
bad.
That's where I'd be willing to take Caminero in some situations. He's not going to be a big target of mine, and I agree with Justin. If he was a little bit further, it's not a huge difference, but I don't want to take him ahead of Lindor or Gunnar or a lot of the same names I used as in the Kurtz example. The scarcity of third base makes it a little more palatable,
Sure.
but at the 1-2 turn, I can't really feel comfortable doing it.
I feel you. Finish with you, Jason, on Kurtz versus Cammy at their prices.
Same. I'd rather have Caminero, but it's not big. It's just like if they're both sitting there in the middle of the second round, like Justin was saying, I would take Caminero regardless of my favorite team.
I will say, like, away from the Trop, in the last 2 months of the season, he hit 282 in August, and he hit 326 in September.
What was particularly impressive when you brought up the second half batting average from Caminero was like, didn't they play a bunch of road games?
Yeah, and
because of the
that's
weather
what I
thing?
wanted to
So
look
yeah, that
up,
is
and I was able to
interesting.
do it while Joe was talking.
That is interesting.
So for me to see that kind of improvement, a lot of what was dragging him down was that, kind of slow start to the beginning of the season, and then, yeah, he was dreadful in June and July on the road, 125, 164 batting averages in June and July. But he really turned it around. The hit tool looked a lot better in the last few months of the season. So I could see him kind of keep some of that batting average, and do kind of what you said, Paul, which was, Paredes hugged that line.
Yes,
he
just
pulled
ripped
that
down
ball
that left field line all day.
in Tampa Bay. I think Caminero could do that as well in the Trop, and maybe he will be well worth that kind of back end of the first round. So I'm gonna end up kind of coming around before the start of draft season and saying I want Caminero.
Yeah, I think between the two, Caminero's the one I could get at that price. Kurtz, just not enough track record, and I'm not as hard on track record these days because we see so many young guys become instant studs, but I need more from Kurtz before I'm drafting him that high. Let's get into catchers. It was a banner year for the position. It was just deep as can be. I can't even fathom in one catcher leagues. You didn't even need to draft one. You could have just played the wire. But even two catcher leagues brought in a lot of talent. We have to start with the big guy, of course. We got to go Cal Raleigh here, going 90 to 100. Because remember, that was obviously a massive, huge season, but he wasn't an unknown entity like some of the guys we're getting into, like Kurtz and even the rest of these catchers. But now he is, and these aren't all going in order. They just happen to at the beginning. It's 15 Kurtz, 16 Caminero, and 17 for Raleigh. So now we have another guy way up, Justin. We'll start with you. With Cal Raleigh going into the top 20 picks now, we know he's not going to hit 60-some homers. Well, we feel like he's not going to hit 60-some homers again.
He might.
I know. But can you buy in off this insane Cal Raleigh season at this new elevated cost?
I don't think I can. I think catchers are often really good investments early, but not this early. I mean, the last time we had a first-round catcher was Gary Sanchez, and that was the year Gary Sanchez fell off. And
See everybody's heads all
yeah, right.
Oh my God.
So remember, it wasn't that long ago for some of the people in this room where Gary Sanchez was going in the 15-16 turn in drafts, and that was the year he completely fell off. Now, I don't think that Cal Raleigh is going to fall off, and what Cal Raleigh does, better than I think a lot of other catchers in fantasy, is he just accumulates a ton of plate appearances. He's a great defender. They'll DH him when he's not behind the plate. And so, you will get a ton of plate appearances, and he did make improvements to the tool. There's no reason not to draft Cal Raleigh, other than the fact that catchers get hurt more often than the other position player. And that kind of what scares me in terms of drafting a catcher that high. If he was going in the middle of the second round, and maybe he does drop there at some point as the pitching starts to go up, I might get interested. But I really don't love investing in that kind of position that can get hurt so easily behind the plate, even in the second round. I much prefer him in the third.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. And listen, it's crazy that I even found him in a group of 1,000, but I just noticed that Sam is here. One of the biggest Cal Raleigh fans ever, was passing out stickers of Cal Raleigh 3 years ago.
Yeah.
When people like knew who he was, but not like anything special. He's like giving out stickers, big dumper stickers. Huge fan over there, and I can't believe I found him in the huge group of over, I think probably 2,000 now, eyeballing it.
Where's Waldo? And there he was.
And yeah, I found him, so it's great. Joe, Cal Raleigh, does the depth of the position make you less interested in going for him because we have this gigantic list, 4 more guys that we're going to get into, plus several others? Is that a big impediment to paying pick 17 for Raleigh for you?
Absolutely. Catcher's very deep, at least for right now it is. If you're looking at, Dylan Dingler had a solid year. He's the 19th catcher. Stevenson has been our guy for a couple of years with varying success. 22, Ohapi, who had a bit of a down year, but the 21st catcher off the board. You can fill out two catchers fairly easily these days. Do you want to take Raleigh, who sometimes is going in the first, the minimum pick of 9 already? It just feels a lot. If you're looking at the stats, 60 home runs, I'm taking the under. 110 runs, I'm taking the under. 125 ribbies, under. Steals, I'm probably taking the under.
6.
I could take the 247 batting average and say he could do that again. But if he hits 35 homers and has 75 ribbies, or excuse me, if he pretty much repeats 2024, 34 homers, 100 ribbies, hits 220, it'd be a very good season. It'd be very disappointing at the 1-2 turn, and that's the thing.
That's the tough
And you
part.
have to kind of expect a little bit of regression after these big years. Matt Olson's massive year from a couple years ago stands out. He was the number 2 player in fantasy. He becomes a first, second round pick, and then he falls back a couple rounds. And it wasn't even that he had a bad season, but just expecting a repeat is probably unwise here.
No, I think that's completely fair. And in the interest of time, we are going to skip one of the 3 participants on each of these guys unless they just got a point that they got to get in. So let's move over to Hunter Goodman. And Jason, we will start with you. He went from the 310s. He wasn't an afterthought in fantasy. There were his proponents out there that said, hey, it's a Rockies catcher. Let's try this again for the 500th time, as somebody who bought in on Chris Iannetta, Tom Murphy, Willen Rosario, all of them. I was in on Goodman trying again, so I got lucky there. But from 310s now up to top 75 pick, can he repeat what he did? All-star campaign. Do the Rockies actually have a good catcher now?
I promise you all, eventually we're going to say something good about one of these players. This is not going to be that time. I would say I was fortunate enough to, in a 15-team OBP league, I took a chance on Shea Langoliers and Hunter Goodman as my 2 catchers. That was so much fun. I didn't even win the league, though. That was a sad part, because I failed in the saves and holds category with this. But if anything, I mentioned this last year a few times, history is still our best teacher. And every year, somebody breaks out in Colorado, and the next year they bust Nolan Jones. Yeah, let's go do it. And he failed. Then we had Brenton Doyle. Oh, my God, this guy is finally going to do it. He failed. Hunter Goodman was the Rocky who took that big step forward, and there's no way I can get on board in this price. As much as I enjoyed drafting Hunter Goodman in the 21st, 22nd round, because the beauty of the Rocky situation is they're terrible, but if somebody does good, they get the opportunity to continue doing that, and Goodman maximized that last year. We knew he wasn't going to start somewhere, but the bat had the potential to play somewhere, and if he was on a contending team, this never would have happened, but he's not. And we're not even talking about the guy today, but Lenine Sosa, another breakout that happened on a terrible team because they had nothing else. But cannot get in here. Don't be a year too late. Don't do this.
And again, I think it's the depth of the position that makes it really tough to pull the trigger here on somebody like Goodman at pick 74, because that doesn't scream horribly egregious for a Rockies guy, but I think he's another risk to hit my body weight, which is not good, folks. You don't want that. And both Raleigh and Goodman could be hitting, sub Mendoza in a worst case scenario. Sam, I'm just kidding, man. Relax.
He hit your body weight last year, 2 years ago, though.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. But Joe, you were looking up Goodman. You find anything there on his Fangraphs page that wants you to pay a top 75 pick?
If you look below the surface, there weren't really a ton of massive changes between 2024 and 2025. The barrel rate was the same. The hard hit rate went up a little bit, but the strikeout rate and walk rates were very similar. A lot of the plate discipline metrics were essentially the same. 38 O swing down to 36 is Zone contact, 83.3, 83.5. The swing strike rate is still at 16%. So I think there is a chance that Hunter Goodman could come crashing down to earth. Is he going to be a 190 guy again? I don't think so, but I think we can probably split the difference between 2024 and 2025 and say maybe he's a 20 home run guy who hits you 240 to 250, and that's fine.
But no runs and ribbies on that garbage team.
And as the number 4 catcher, and as we've already talked about, there are just so many names here between catcher 5 and 50, and I'd like essentially all of them. I don't think I'll have a single share of Hunter Goodman this year.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I will. Again, somebody I liked last year at that price point, but now you're coming up from 310s to 74. It's just too much. Justin, we're going to move to Ben Rice and open it with you. He is 10 picks cheaper.
Whoa. Before we move to Ben Rice, let's not skip me on Hunter Goodman after I was the one who was Hunter Goodman guy coming in.
It says right here, chime in if necessary.
Yeah, I'm chiming in because it's necessary. I want my props for Hunter Goodman last year.
What did you say about Hunter Goodman that was so special?
I said that this is a guy who could get to 30, 40 home runs.
That sounds fake. Nah.
Yeah, and he did. He got to 30 home runs. I think you guys are underselling Goodman a little bit.
It's the price.
I understand the price is more expensive, but you're also talking about a catcher who has made real strides in improving the hit tool. This was a guy who had like a 40 grade hit tool coming out of, or a 30 grade hit tool coming out of the minor leagues.
Right.
He's just below league average in zone contact. He's done that now for 2 consecutive seasons. I don't think he's a guy who can.
That sort of strikeout to walk ratio. Sorry to cut you off there, though. 26% strikeout, 6% walk. That just does not find long-term success with batting
In
average.
Colorado, it will.
He has the right park to do it, sure.
Yeah.
But okay, so then give me a batting average range.
255.
You think he's be in the 250s?
I
If he's
think
in the
he's a
250s, I could pay it. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'll give you the 31 homers. I actually don't think the homers are necessarily going to fall off. But I have grave concerns about Goodman's
If he
batting
was in
average.
a different park on a different team, where the nice thing about being in Colorado is when you get that BABIP help, but also there's no one to replace him.
Sure.
He's not one of these guys that if he struggles, he's not going to play. He's still going to get to 500 plus plate appearances.
My only pushback on the stadium, though, is even Colorado with the thin air, if you don't make contact with the ball, it doesn't just fly away.
He's a power hitter, a power first guy,
26% K rate,
making 83 point something
What was his
percent
BABIP?
zone contact. That's right below the 85% league average.
From 199 to 331 or 331 BABIP. Sorry, I am hard of seeing. That's just I don't know. And you're paying full freight for it. That's
you're looking
the
at
tough
the 199 BABIP from a 70 game,
Sure.
224
Okay.
plate appearance sample.
Okay, so what do you think his true talent BABIP is?
Probably in Colorado.
Sure.
Probably
Yeah.
320.
You think that's his true talent? He can live in the 300s?
I think he can. He hits the ball super.
Then you should be
hard.
okay. Then this should be your guy again this year.
He's going to be.
Okay, good chime.
That's why I'm chiming in.
Good chime in. Hold the mic. Let's go to Ben Rice. Ben Rice goes now pick 400s. Now I think he'd have gone a bit higher in drafts if he came in with catcher eligibility. So let's say that his catcher at ADP probably would have been similar to Goodman's. You think that's fair? Probably about 70, 80 picks higher. But he went 400s because he was first base only. He did gain the catcher eligibility enough to hold it for this year. He's now up to pick 84, 10 picks clear of Goodman. How do you feel about his price point, Ben Rice? Can he build on what he did last year? And, little bonus question, any chance he has catcher eligibility for 2027? Meaning, does he re-up it next year?
Oh, I think that's the harder question to answer. Probably not, because there's no reason for them to now sign a Paul Goldschmidt type player to block him off.
He should just play first.
He should just play first. So if you're in a dynasty league and you're not competing, you've got Ben Rice. This may be a sell high point because he will lose that catcher eligibility for 2027. But for 2026, I think I'm in on Ben Rice. I love the underlying skills. I love the fact that they're gonna be able to commit to him full time at first base in 2026 in New York. It's obviously a great lineup around him. Yeah, I think I'm in on this price. Honestly, and I hate to say it after what I just said, I'd probably take him over Goodman.
Ooh. All that amazing talk about Goodman, and you're taking Ben Rice.
I want to leave my draft in one of these guys.
I like both. I am a little bit stuck on the price point. I like Rice a little bit better, cheaper. Jason, Ben Rice in your division there, beating up the Rays a bit. Actually, I have no idea how he did against them. But what do you think of Ben Rice and his breakthrough?
I paid $2 for Ben Rice last year, and AL only tout worse. So, a lot more. That's the thing. It was crazy to be able to get him that cheat and see this kind of elevation again. But to the point, they're already talking that he's going to be the primary first baseman for this club next year, and that's fantastic that he can get all those plate appearances, reduces risk injury, not having to catch, and everything like that. So this would be one of the positive guys. I really like Ben Rice again this year because he makes excellent contact, and those are the types of hitters I want more of on my club. And I'm really sorry I didn't get the dress code for this podcast today.
In fairness, Justin, of all people, sent out a notice ahead of time to wear this shirt. Do you not have it?
I do not own this shirt.
Disgusting.
I didn't even get the notice. I just wore it.
He just
Probably
wore
said it on Twitter.
No, it's in our group chat. It's literally in our group chat. You're being the Justin of things right now. All right.
Justin never reads the rundown.
Let's go to. Oh wait, do you have anything on Rice? You get to chime in if you need to. Okay. Let's go to Augustin Ramirez. Again, I'm telling you, catchers deep. We got Goose and then one more guy after this. Justin, we're going to start with you again. It's going to be you and Joe here. Augustin Ramirez is right behind Rice. So you got Goodman, Rice, Ramirez, all in this little 74 to 85 type group there. Do you like Ramirez any better than these other two that we've talked about?
I like Ramirez. I don't know if I like him as much as these two guys, but
What about this? I was going to do a tack on question there. I understand that, but then what about his speed component? How real are these 16 steals that we got out of a Goose?
I mean, he stole 22 in 2024 in the minor leagues. So, and I think the Marlins don't really care, right? Like they just
About baseball?
yeah. Like they just if he gets thrown out, like it's not going to be a big deal. I think they'll just let him run. He's thrown out 3 times. It's actually not too bad.
He comes back after getting caught. They're like, "Why aren't you on base?" If they tag me, I'm out. They're like, "Oh, we didn't know
yeah,
that."
they don't even know the
crazy.
rules really.
That's
So,
nuts.
Honestly, I kind of had this as a trio, and I'll take whoever's cheapest
You just
in the
want
draft.
one of the 3? Yeah.
If all 3 are available, I'll take the guy I like the most, which will probably be Ben Rice, just because Rice will likely get more plate appearances.
He won't catch.
Yeah, he won't catch. He'll be that guy that we love that is a catcher-eligible player that doesn't catch.
Yep.
So,
That was exclusively the reason I liked Goodman, is I wasn't sure he was going to catch much.
that was one of the reasons.
And he
And it
was
didn't even
catch-all.
matter. Like he didn't even play the outfield really.
Right.
So it just tended or just worked out. But I like Ramirez. He's probably third of this group for me. I can see the arguments for him being second because of that speed component. But ultimately, yeah, I think we saw in the NFBC panel, for those of you who were there, obviously the listeners who are listening to this later weren't there, but they talked about the guys that win these big NFBC contests, they have a good catcher, right? Like they don't just skimp out at a position. So I do want to leave the draft to one of these guys potentially.
Joe, when you're looking at somebody like Ramirez, right, he's got a much lower batting average than Goodman and Rice, and I'm going to bring up the speed again because I do think that bridges the gap there to still keep that value. But it is a Marlin, and similar to Goodman on the Rockies, it does bring the runs and ribbies down. Even though the park helps that for the Rockies, it doesn't help it for the Marlins. Where do you put Ramirez being a top 100 pick on the Marlins? Like, can he back this up again, or is he just scary on a bad team, having only done it for, 2/3 of a season?
He's a little bit scary because he's not
It's a full season. Never mind. That's pretty cool.
super great hitter, I don't think, at this point. Like, for fantasy purposes, he gets the job done. He had 287 on base rate. That kind of worries me a little bit.
That's horrendous.
I think the speed component does make up for the shortcomings in batting average. Because a 231 average from your catcher, I mean, what's the league average batting average these days? It's about 230, right? 240, maybe.
243.
So it's not killing you, especially when you're getting 16 steals and 21 homers from your catcher. I can totally live with it. I personally would probably prefer him over Goodman. I think the Marlins offense is more interesting to me
I would
than the
agree with that,
Rockies,
yeah.
even given the Coors factor. I think I kind of agree with Justin, though. If any of these guys are falling, that trio of them kind of does make a bit of a group, and you just take the guy who is there the latest. I could get behind that. But I think just regardless of price, I think I would prefer Ramirez over Goodman at this point.
Jason wanted to chime in here. Just a little reminder that this was the return for Jazz Chisholm. So if you didn't know him as a prospect that much, that's understandable because he did kind of rise quickly and become a thing. But this was a big return. When they got Augustin Ramirez, they're like, this is somebody who's going to be big for us, and it's panned out so far. What do you think of him next year?
Yeah, I need to stress just how terrible this guy is as a catcher. Just absolutely terrible. The Marlins allowed 191 stolen bases as a team last year. Just awful. They threw out 11% of stolen base attempts. Ramirez played in 73 games and was responsible for 83 of those successful stolen base attempts. He was 8 of 91 throwing out players, and he had 19 pass balls. So the Marlins may not care, but they got to get this guy out of catching and get him over to first, get him to first base. Yeah, it's great for us, but you know, if you're thinking keeper league and whatnot, this guy has got to get off catcher and move to a position that he's not absolutely killing the team.
He will definitely not be a catcher in 2028. So like,
Yeah, so don't plan long term.
Yeah, they may give him enough games behind the plate in 2026 to keep him eligible in 2027. But I would say by 2028 he's probably a full-time DH.
Yeah, yeah, and we'll see if Fortes and Liam Hicks maybe get more of the catcher share this year to maybe.
Well, Fortes is with the.
Oh yeah, that's right. He got traded. So yeah, because they were running 3 catchers
Yeah,
for a while.
keep
and
up,
then they
Paul.
went,
And I'm
"Shut
super
up."
excited about that. With the you saw that.
Yeah, you were really geeked about him going to the Rays. All right, last catcher here before we get into some more other positions. Drake Baldwin. What a hit here with Drake Baldwin on the Braves. Undrafted. You know, we didn't know anything about him. Sean Murphy's supposed to be the guy there, of course. Clears a path with an injury. Baldwin takes over and was just excellent. So now he's going from undrafted to pick 110. I actually see a little bit higher even. You drafted him? I guess I was probably late draft then. His composite was whatever from Fangraphs is where I
You were
pulled
that one guy?
the ADP. Yeah, your one draft didn't count there. But yeah, he had an amazing season. I don't really know what to make of him, Joe. Drake Baldwin, can you give me a rundown of what you think, and can you pay a pick 110? If these other guys, this Goodman, Rice, Ramirez trio goes, right? They go at or above their ADP. Would you settle for a Baldwin? What's his outlook?
Yeah, I don't even know if it should be considered settling. He was unbelievable in 124 games. There's nothing you can really point to as a massive flaw other than he doesn't steal, but that's pretty much every catcher. We're just coming off of talking about Ramirez, but nobody's really getting you stolen bases from the position. 19 homers, 80 ribbies, 274 average with a solid on-base rate. 8.5% walk rate is kind of whatever, but he only strikes out 15% of the time. Makes a lot of contact in the zone, doesn't swing and miss a lot. I think the Braves as a whole, maybe we've been saying this for like 3 years now, but I think their offense is going to improve next year. They've kind of been in the lull for the last couple of years. Feels like we're banging our heads against the wall. But I think it's a better team than what we've seen over the last couple of seasons, and I think they're probably going to start to realize that. I hope they don't get Bo Bichette, but that's definitely a possibility that they bring in some reinforcements this offseason. And I think Baldwin hitting in the middle of that order could drive in 100. He could hit 20-ish home runs, give you a good batting average, great OBP leagues. There's nothing I can really point to as a big flaw here. The price, I'm honestly kind of surprised he's going 30 picks after Hunter Goodman. Is that deserved?
I don't necessarily think so. So maybe he ends up elevating. Baldwin does, and this is one of those where you can get a cheaper price here in the fall winter before people kind of catch up and realize that he should probably be in this trio with the trio of guys we covered: Goodman, Rice, Ramirez. Baldwin again, pick 110. Jason, does he have the juice to be in this upper tier?
Yeah, getting into, I promised you we were going to talk about guys we like. And here's another one. It's a situation that it's really impressive when a rookie catcher can come up and eventually start hitting cleanup for a team. And I know Atlanta wasn't what we thought they were going to be, but he hit in 8 different spots of the lineup, but hitting cleanup like this, and that's how he got to 80 RBIs. A quarter of those RBIs came from him hitting cleanup in just 34 games with this. And so a few of my friends are Atlanta fans, and they just kept commenting just everything about Baldwin just screams future superstar type of thing. I didn't see him play enough to say that, but just statistically and just the intangibles of the tax of the position and his youth and the fact that he was hitting cleanup and stepping up and doing this, I would be taking him over Goodman myself as much as I loved Goodman last year.
So Drake Baldwin getting a lot of love here, and again, I agree with it. Justin, I'll give you a chime in because you did draft. Where did you draft him?
You know, it's funny. So I was in my auction championship league. I threw him out for $1, and the entire room.
They cricketed you?
Yeah, they cricketed me, and then I got Hunter Goodman in the reserves.
Damn. Okay.
And so I ended up
your
having
catcher
to
was
I ended
well
up having to drop Drake Baldwin because I had Shea Langoliers
say,
as
who'd
my
you
other
pick? Okay.
as my other catcher, and like I couldn't roster 3 all year. And it was really a bummer, you know. That's like the one downside to like an NFBC league is sometimes you got to drop a guy. It's good because there's no trades,
Right. And
So,
what are you gonna do with 3 catchers, right? You're
Yeah.
not gonna try to like decide who to pick each week.
Yeah, so it just happened because I mean Sean Murphy got hurt before the start of the season, so I was like, oh, I'll throw Drake Baldwin out for $1. I'll soak up somebody else's spot so I can get my Hunter Goodman for the $1 that I want, and then it just
And they didn't even want
Yeah,
him
they didn't
until the
want
reserves. That's crazy. So yeah, Baldwin again, I really do like him. I do think that if his price remains a good chunk away from those other guys, Baldwin's the guy to go for. All right, let's get out of catcher. Again, it is a crazy position now. You should be playing it differently than you have in recent years with this depth. But let's go to another one that's probably on the level of Kurtz and Caminero in terms of excitement, but he didn't come up from as high as these other guys. It's Pete Crow-Armstrong. Now, if the season had ended, let's say, in July, he probably would have been a top 5 overall pick. But then his second half was horrendous. So he went from the 120s last year. He was an entity, a power speed guy, up to 32 now. And look, spoiler alert for me, I'm not in at all, man. I wouldn't be in, I don't think, 30 picks cheaper. I don't believe in his skills at all. He's got raw fantasy skills, but this is just white O'Neal Cruz, and I'm not with good defense. But at the dish, that's all it is, and I just can't be convinced otherwise. Jason, Pete Crow-Armstrong, anything for him?
Thank God the season didn't end in July, because this was one of those bold predictions that I said I want nothing to do with this guy, nothing that he was Kevin Kiermaier II, and after the break it's like wow. But then in the second half he was Kevin Kiermaier II, 216, 262, 372. That's how he hit after the All-Star break. So that's
Were the OBP and average the same?
it's close. 216, 262. Yeah, that's when we have few walks and a lot of strikeouts, more than he had in the first half. So eventually took a full season for me to be right somewhat about this, but still way off with this. And I still have the same reservations that I don't want to pay the mark. I will not pay this market price for Crow-Armstrong this year. But yes, I was very, very, very wrong to fade him as heavily as I did last year. But I will still stick by that because I'm stubborn.
I think it's good to be stubborn here. Again, I really, really think he's a huge trap player. It's Ellie and O'Neal. It's that same sort of vibe where like the fantasy volume is there on the homers and speed, but what bludgeoning are you taking in the average, and are you properly accounting for it? If you draft around it and you get Vlad and Yandy, I guess they're both first basemen, but if you get a bunch of great batting average guys that you can eat a Pete Crow-Armstrong and O'Neal Cruz and Ellie De La Cruz, sure, but you really, really, really have to plan for it, in my opinion. Pete Crow-Armstrong, Justin, can he improve as a hitter, legitimately? Like, is there anything that you're seeing in the numbers that make you believe more in the first half than the second half?
So you've given a lot of comps, and you've missed the correct one.
Which is?
Pete Crow-Armstrong is Michael Harris.
Okay, that's a good one. I'll field there too. Good defense.
He's just
Tricks
way
with
too aggressive.
Yeah.
He swings outside the zone way too much. He doesn't have a good understanding of the strike zone to begin with. But when he's hot, like he was in the first half, he can be a top 2-round fantasy player. But he's going to have these extended slumps. And we saw with Michael Harris last year that can sometimes last an entire season, or the majority of the entire season, right? So I don't like spending high draft picks on these type of profiles where I don't know what the production is going to look like week to week. Especially, I know, especially for our pod, we're very roto-centric, we're very NFBC-centric sometimes, but for those of you, probably the majority of the people who listen, play in a lot of head-to-head leagues. These are not the guys to draft in head-to-head leagues.
No.
Do not draft these guys that you cannot predict their production week to week. They're just maddening. They will cost you head-to-head titles. They'll cost you championships every year. But people always go for them because they've got massive upside. I'm glad we saw the downside in the second half, but this is another guy, the underlying contact metrics remind me of what we saw from Tristan Casas the year before last, which was the metrics weren't very good in the first half, but the production was, and then the metrics were really bad, or the metrics got better in the second half, but the production fell apart. I don't know that Pete Crow-Armstrong knows what Pete Crow-Armstrong is, and I don't draft players like that.
No, I'm not sure I can agree more on the concerns with PCH. I'll let you get in on this one if you got something on him, because he is one of these players that's like, again, going so high, and you get it with the fantasy volume on the homers and steals, but if he's a bad hitter, it's just not worth it. I like that Justin brought up the head-to-head piece on it, too. Are you willing to disagree with the group here? Is PCA somebody you'd go for, Joe?
I wouldn't draw such a hard line to say that he's going to be on 0 of my teams. His maximum pick is 51. If I can get him in the 4th round and I feel pretty safe about the first 3 guys on my team, I might do it. He's not going to be a huge target of mine. I think the Michael Harris comp is actually really good.
Really, really good.
How they chase outside of the zone, they make decent contact in the zone, and you just really don't know what you're getting in a given week. They could be the number 1 fantasy player, they could be the number 500 fantasy player, and you just never really know what you're going to get. I think PCA is still going to give you probably 25 homers, 25 steals over the course of the season. You might have a 270 on base rate, and you just can't do it.
Yeah. Joe,
He can play every single day.
that is the beauty. That
That can
defense
be
is so good.
He's gonna play every day. He will accumulate.
Yep.
But
Anywhere where accumulation is good. But again, that does
Kill your batting
it
average.
kills you on the head-to-head. Right. It brings it back to the head-to-head point you made up, where he is bludgeoning you with playing every single solitary day, and Pete Armstrong just killing you down the stretch. Oh, worse was Ellie, though. His second half was unbelievably bad. Let's go to Roman Anthony. Undrafted last year, right? He hadn't debuted yet. People were excited that he did go in some drafts late. I remember seeing him in some of the mains very late. But overall, you weren't. What?
he wasn't undrafted.
Again, I went off the Fangraphs, so I don't know when that poll is from, which is why I said he was drafted in some spots.
He was like a top 175 player by main event time.
Maybe like the last few main events. I don't think he was that high firmly. At any rate, he's now up to 55. It is a crowded team, but obviously Roman Anthony is that dude, Joe. Is he ready for a big breakthrough, or are we overpaying at 55?
No, I think it's fine at 55. I mean, this is the type of guy in years past that's been like Wyatt Langford, Jackson Chourio. And
That doesn't encourage me. Wyatt Langford took a while to
But they've been like first, second round type of players after we got a little bit of taste of magic in their first year. And you're getting Roman Anthony in the 4th or maybe even the 5th round. His max pick is 77. Whereas by the time main events roll around, maybe the price is completely
No,
different.
Wyatt was really good this year too, by the way. I should point that out. Wyatt Langford was really good.
He was solid, but I think people who pushed him up to the 1-2 turn were probably disappointed in him.
Yeah,
still.
with the 241 average specifically.
But Anthony going at pick 55 feels really reasonable. What he did last year, again, if you look below the surface, everything, similarly to Drake Baldwin, there's nothing you can really point to as a huge flaw. 27% strikeout rate, you don't love to see it, but he had a 10% swinging strike rate.
Well, he knows how to take a walk too, Anthony does.
Yeah.
So you're going to have more strikeouts with guys that are tracking a 13% walk rate, partly because they're getting in deep counts all the time. There's just going to be more Ks. I don't see him as like a flailing type of guy like PCA, Michael Harris, those type of guys we were talking about. What kind of O-swing rate does Anthony have?
I think it's pretty, 19%.
There you go.
Yeah.
And for context, you had the leaderboard up there, or the negative leaderboard. How high was PCA?
PCA has the 3rd highest chase rate in the bigs.
At 42%, is that what that was?
Yeah.
And then Anthony's, if he qualified, would
Anthony,
be...
so he's at 19.7, so he would have been top 10.
Right.
The good top 10.
So that's where you see that strikeout rates aren't created equally. I think somebody like PCA, Ellie, O'Neill Cruz, guys like that, they don't know what they're swinging at. Javier Baez never knows what he's swinging at, occasionally makes contact. Somebody like Anthony does strike out a lot too, but again, that's because of the walks, the deep counts, hunting for his pitch. I think he's a way better investment than someone like PCA.
Absolutely.
Justin?
315 was his main event ADP.
Okay, so
Roman
that's
Anthony,
fine.
it was a little bit lower than
Yeah.
I thought.
So up to 55 from that, so still a huge surge.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna have a really hard time with Roman Anthony because what my projections will probably end up saying is he is going way too high. But what my eyes tell me when I watch Roman Anthony is gonna be much different than what the numbers spit out at me.
Why do you think they're going to tell you that based on what he did in the minors this year and then into his major league
just
sample?
watching him hit in the majors, watching what he did in the minor leagues, like I see like, and I know this is gonna be hyperbolic, so I apologize for saying it, but I could see like a junior Caminara type breakout. Like this, he's got really, really good skills, and he's on a really good team in Boston that will give him a lot of support around him. I could see a massive breakout, and so like I understand why he's going this high. The numbers say he probably shouldn't, though. Like even if you look at like Steamer's projection for him, it's pretty paltry.
It's pretty light, yeah. It's pretty light with 18.
It's pretty scary.
Or 15
the
and
idea
8.
like 15 home runs and 8 stolen bases.
That's 500 plate
262.
appearances. Give the Fangraphs depth charts,
Okay,
which
but
gives
that,
him 623 at
that's
least.
18,
I'm just
10
saying, just give him the full
from
season.
where did you say he's going in drafts right now?
Pick 55.
Yeah, so 4th round player that gets you 18 and 10.
Now, the one pushback on that, though, is all
They're
guys who
always
have
low.
70 games of
Yeah.
track record. The projection systems are never really going to bring them up.
And I do
Right.
have some questions about Roman Anthony's hit tool. Like, I don't think he's going to hit 290. I think he's much more of like a 260 type hitter. But I do think that there's power there. I think there's speed there. He's going to be on a team that I got Nick Pollock sending me text messages, and now he's laughing at me. So I don't know. I don't know what's happening here.
You said that you were looking right at me as you were talking about Red Sox players.
Oh yeah, no. I try to look into the soul of Red Sox fans, so I'm looking at Eric Smolsky. Yeah, no, there is a part of me that really wants to have some shares of Roman Anthony. I just don't know that I can pay a fourth round price because, like we were talking about last night, even though it was obviously a starting pitching panel, when you draft risk that high, you're passing up on really proven
It's
talent.
a big opportunity cost, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's not like you're passing up on guys who aren't very good to take this shot. You're passing up on really, really good talent
Aren't
in the
you?
fourth round.
But you're willing to pay a similar price for some of those catchers that I think have some pretty big risk. I don't know. I don't know about the hit tool concern here with Anthony. Can you dig in on that a little bit more? Because I mean, he's carried huge BABIPs all throughout. Not going to run a 404 like he did this year. I would never suggest that for somebody. But his minor league ones all the way up are insane.
Yeah,
you
he
know,
had
upper
like
300s, low 400s.
81.7% zone contact. Now he has a really good understanding of the zone. So
Right. He
he's
knows
gonna-
the pitches that are coming.
Yeah, he's
Anthony
going to
does.
take look. He's not overly aggressive in the zone. He probably needs to dial up that aggressiveness, but he also doesn't make really close to league average contact. And so I do worry that you're probably looking at a guy. Now that can change, and in 2024 in the minors and even in 2025 when he was in AAA, he had 86% zone contact, which is right above league average for the major league. So
Okay.
I could, this could just be a matter of, hey, he was adjusting to major league pitching, and he's going to get better. And that's why I said, like, the eyes tell me, like, the eye test goes, hey, I think this guy's going to be really, really good. But the reason I use projections is try to take my own bias out of it,
Sure.
right? And this is why I do my own projections. And that tells me I don't think I could pay a fourth round price for a guy like Roman Anthony.
I think my concern, and Jason, I'm going to bring you in on this too. I know you have a chime in of your own, but I'm curious: is Roman Anthony like a real base stealer? I think that's my concern. Is that maybe he's being drafted as an all categories type of guy, and I don't know about the steals. I see the 21 in the minors in 2024, but 21 for 28, not particularly impressive. A few other 16 stop. Oh wait, that's actually the same year, 2024. It's just this AA work. I don't think he's necessarily a base stealer, so I don't know what all I'm getting. I am leaning a little bit closer to Justin here on Roman Anthony, but where do you come out with him?
Yeah, if only he had that 2 percentile sprint speed like Josh Naylor, this would be so much easier to predict. I mean, in all seriousness, I just mentioned last year about being so out on Pro Armstrong, crazy athletic guy, but obvious flaws. I would be willing to go the exact opposite route here and be like all in on Roman Anthony as much as I am preconditioned to hate everything Boston. Justin mentioned the eye test. Every time I saw this kid play, I was like, oh man, this kid's going to be so good. It's going to suck. He's going to be playing against my favorite team for too long. But I would be, like I said, as hesitant as I was to buy in on the PCA hype last year, this hype train is going to be really tough to avoid for me.
I do get the hype train. Again, if I'm not getting steals though, I don't know what I'm getting with the complete package of Roman Anthony. All right, we got a few more guys. This one's one of my favorites because I made Justin look like such an idiot. Not a difficult task, but he wanted to tell me how Jordan Waller's going to take that job, and I was like, I don't think so. I think they're in on Geraldo Perdomo, and literally 2 hours after we recorded that pod, they signed him to an extension. And, Justin got
Like
to come
how
on the
you
next
become the
episode.
Perdomo guy when for years before I was the Perdomo guy.
Horseshit.
Wow.
Tell us how you really feel.
I'm not on pitcher list right now, Nick. Relax. But he went from 430 to 95. And again, I will point out that when we did the next episode, we're like, okay, now Perdomo's signed, and I was already off Waller, and Justin did back off on him. But Perdomo, he's their guy. What? Oh, sorry, I thought you were chiming in over there. Because, yeah, you are out on this one. Good, so I can keep talking trash about Justin. Awesome. So anyway, he goes up to 95 with just an insane season, Joe. He had 20 homers. How many steals did he have? I forget. But he played up to a 7 WAR for Perdomo. The elite defense, 27 steals, 20 homers, 98 runs, 100 ribs. Just a bonkers year with a 290 average. I'll just flat out ask you, how legit is it with Geraldo Perdomo?
I think there are elements of it that is legit. I think he can hit for a good average. I think he can give you some stolen bases. I think the lineup is reasonably good. I don't know that he's going to give you 100 and 100. That kind of worries me a little bit. The plate appearances, sure.
No, I was pointing to that because to back up your point, you're saying that you don't think
It's
he's
an
going to go 98,
accumulate-
100 again,
it's an
and I think
accumulation.
720 plate appearances is why he got there. So I'm agreeing
Right,
with you, and I think
right.
that that's the big reason alone. You can't put 720 for a guy again.
I mean, so he hadn't had more than 500 in a season prior to this.
Right, and I wouldn't put the Mookie. I mean, he's falling. Who's like the best, best volume accumulator ever? I wouldn't put them for 720 in a projection. Right, even Marcus Semien, I wouldn't put for 720 in a projection. So I agree with Joe on that front. What can he do skills-wise on the 2020 type season that he had, though?
He doesn't hit the ball terribly hard. He has a decent launch angle at 15 degrees, but a 6% barrel rate, a 31% hard hit rate. He's going to be more of a fade than a target for me, I think. Without having done like a full off-season worth of analysis,
Pick 95. I didn't mention
It
that
feel-
for Perdomo.
which is not bad, honestly.
Sure.
Considering the year that he just had, he was a first-round value at the end of the year, maybe
Oh,
a
yeah.
second-round
Oh, yeah.
player. So it's not as severe of a jump as I thought it would, and maybe it's just because the position is very deep. But because the position is very deep, do I want to take him, 15, 20 picks ahead of Pena, 30 picks ahead of Bichette, 40 picks ahead of Willie Adames, and close to 100 picks ahead of guys like Dansby Swanson, Xavier Edwards? I don't know that I need to pay a premium on Perdomo when, again, it kind of feels similarly, like I mentioned earlier, like the Matt Olson big one-off years,
Yes.
the Cal Raleigh years. I don't know how repeatable it is. The price makes it easy to jump back in if you want to. He's not a second-rounder, but I just don't feel the need to. Like Corey Seager at the exact same price, there's a lot of risk there, but I know Corey Seager, he's going to miss some time, he's going to play 120 games, he's going to hit 30 home runs. It's just kind of, I know what I'm getting out of him. I don't know what I'm getting out of Perdomo.
Strategically, I think Perdomo is a horrendous buy as a top 100 pick. That is just going to be his high watermark season. There's almost no way around it, and you're just buying the fall with him. I love the guy, I really do. I think he's awesome, but I can't pay top 100. Jason, what about you with Perdomo? Can he go 2020 again?
No, I was the same thing. That when you see somebody that has that much volume, there's only one way to go, and that's going to be down. He was tremendous part of success. I mentioned the league earlier where I had Langoliers and Goodman as my catching duo. Perdomo was the very first free agent guy I picked up. Dumped David Festa right away because I had lost Zach Neto to the IL and Eduardo Julian after watching opening weekend. I'm like, never mind, that's out. And I was able to get Perdomo for that, and so that's nice. But we look through, Joe mentioned the guy when I was looking, like, if I pass, who can I take? Willie Adames is the guy that jumps off to me because he's at 123 right now, ADP, so if I can sit back that, 4 rounds, 3 rounds, and get a second-year free agent now that he's got that rough first-year transfer out of the way, I'm all in there. So that's where there's enough depth there where I can take that pass, and Willie Adames sitting there back at that point, I'll let somebody else take Perdomo and hope for the volume, whereas look what Adames has done the last couple of years. Yeah, the batting average variance has been all over the place, but run production-wise, he's done it repeatedly instead of just once.
And I love your point on Adames about second year after the big deal. We always talk about the big first year fade on the huge deal. Shouts to Glenn Colton and Rick Wolf, who always talk about that in their smart system. It's not that everyone on a big contract has a bad first year, but allowing them a transition year just makes a lot of sense. A lot of guys do struggle that first year. I think Adames is a great call, plus the guys you mentioned, Joe, with regards to Perdomo. Let's move over to Tyler Soderstrom, who I will give you plenty of credit on, Justin, because you were a big Soderstrom guy.
Damn
The
right.
Perdomo stuff, that was made up. But Soderstrom you were on, and he broke out too. And what's weird is they had some fun breakouts with the Athletics, but it didn't really translate into success because their pitching was so horrendous. But that offense really took advantage of the park. Soderstrom was key in that. He now goes from 270 up to 96. Justin, you loved him last year. Can you pay the big freight now on the breakout year?
Yeah, I think I can because I kind of buy everything that he did. I mean, 276 batting average, 272 XBA, hits the ball extremely hard in that park, which is so good for power. He's going to play every day. He's dual eligible at first and outfield. I mean, you got to love this kind of player, and I think this is a perfect price for him. Like, if he gets much more expensive, maybe I start to back off of it a little bit, but I don't see anything wrong with Soderstrom. I love the fact that he's going here.
He's going in between two guys that, one we both love and one that you really like.
Yeah.
Vinny P at 87, then Soderstrom, and then our boy Michael Bush there at 109. Where are you at on that trio?
Just whoever's going cheaper.
Right. So just
You know?
the third left of those three for you is
Yeah,
who you're
I'm
going to
gonna
go for. I think I agree.
I'll probably have shares of all those guys this year.
Jason, looking at somebody like Soderstrom, we talk about that park and how valuable it is, but he actually didn't just flourish in the park, he was flourishing everywhere. Is Tyler Soderstrom legit?
Yeah, I like this guy quite a bit. We look at you talk about flourishing in the home park. He actually hit 15 of his 25 home runs away from Sutter Field Park? Sutter Health, something. Anyhow, so if he left some meat on the bone there could be more here in this. But we know he can make good contact. And again, they're going to let him play every single day, and they're finding a way to keep that bat in the lineup. And again, another guy that I would love to have more on my team this year.
Thing I'll say too.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just last thing, I feel like the perception of Soderstrom is that he just started so hot and then he kind of fell off a cliff because he hit, I think it was 9 home runs in April, and everybody was, is he better than Vlad this year? The #1 first baseman, and I think the general public would say, yeah, he kind of fell off a little bit down the stretch. The second half of the season, while he didn't hit as many home runs, he hit 300 with a 134 WRC plus. The first half was 262 with a 120 WRC plus, but he actually improved as a hitter, not in the power department, but overall in the second half, it was actually better, and I don't think most people would tell you that without looking at the
And I don't think so either. I think you bring up a really interesting player class too, which is somebody who explodes in April, comes back down to earth in May and or June, which in the case of Soderstrom, it was both months where he was sub 100 WRC plus, and then flourishes for the rest of the year. They do get hit in those early perceptions, and it works the other way too. If someone sucks in April but fixes their entire season, people still carry the ugly perception. So that anchoring of April really does a lot for players there. But then, like I said, with Soderstrom, he did have the great April, but then the May brought him back, and everyone's like, well, I guess he stinks. But no, he was wonderful. All right, let's finish up with a pitcher here. We haven't talked a lot of pitching. I know, sorry, Nick.
I've been waiting for an hour to hear about a pitcher.
We'll have like 50 pitcher-only episodes, so I figure we'll get into some hitters here. But we'll end with Nolan McLean, Mets standout prospect, who went undrafted last year, of course. He was not expected. Who knew what impact he could have, and if it was going to be anything, it would be in the summer. All the way up to 108, Joe. That's pricey. He's got the Mets stink on him. Sorry, Mets fans, it's just true. Which is always a little bit of a concern. I don't know how much you bake it into fantasy, but pick 108. I like him, but I can't. Yeah, I can't pay that to save my life, man.
Yeah, and he is the most
Or
expensive.
118. I'm sorry, or no. Is that draft champions only?
This is just every draft.
Okay,
so
I
far.
only did draft champions. But either way, it's 118 for all drafts and 108 overall, or for draft champions. Just way too expensive for McLean. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, we talked about him a little bit yesterday just in terms of the price, but we didn't get into it. He is the most expensive of this group of rookie pitchers who kind of broke out or were at least big stories this last year. Mizorowski, Chase Burns, Savage, they're all going 20, 30, 40 picks later than he is. Roki Sasaki, 40, 50 picks later. Sheehan. A lot of these popular names are going a lot later than McLean, and I think there is a reason for it. He's a stuff god, 117 overall. Every offering is at least average. At the worst, it's average. And the results were unbelievable. 200 batting average against, 22% strikeout minus walk rate, 104 whip. There's not enough of a track record here to jump in with both feet at pick 118.
At that pick, that's the thing.
That's your SP2. Maybe it's your SP3. But I think a lot of people, especially as the years go on, they want to build more. I mean, I guess it really depends on the specific fantasy player. A lot of people, I'm not taking early pitching. I'm going to live a little bit later on. And then Nolan McLean becomes your SP2. And then you need him to carry over these ratios over a whole season. And he's probably not going to do it. 206 ERA. Like, a lot of the supporting numbers are very good. But a 206 ERA, you just can't expect that. And I think people are with that kind of price.
No, they definitely are at that price point. The price point stunned me to the point where I was like, there only been 2 drafts? What is going on here? And listen, I love crazy, right, his parents are just drafting left and right. I love crazy talent too, Justin. I'm always trying to tell you to take the talent, we'll worry about everything else. Here is where I stop. I am not paying a pick 108 on somebody like Nolan McLean when all those other pitchers, and Joe was only naming the young guys in his class that are going. You got guys that are more established, like Ryan Pepio going 60 picks later, just to name somebody who I love. Robbie Ray going 30 picks later. Like, what are we doing here with Nolan McLean, Justin? I dare you to tell me that you like him at this price. I dare you.
So here's the thing.
You ultimate contrarian.
I actually do like him at this price.
I hate your guts.
The problem is there is absolutely no way he stays at this price.
It's going to go up.
It's going to go up. It's going to go up. He's going to be going inside the top 75. And this is like the top of where I would pay for him. I think the stuff is really, really good. The park is good. He threw he threw over 160 innings between AAA and the majors.
I do love that.
Last
I will
year,
say
so
that.
like he can volume.
Yeah.
The Mets are gonna be good. Like I said, the park is good.
Sure they are.
I think there's a lot to really like with McLean. The problem is, I think that this is just the starting point for his ADP, and you're going to see him as
You might be right.
a 5th round pick or a 4th round pick, and that's where I really have a problem. Like, I can see your argument that like, yeah, I'd probably rather have Robbie Ray, but like,
48
if we all of a sudden get to a point where I've got to choose between, McLean and Hunter Green, or McLean and or Logan Webb, or Brian Wu, or Joe Ryan, then there's no way I'm taking
No.
McLean.
You think he's getting up that high?
And I do think he.
I mean,
think
there's a
there are
chance.
always these guys who are, it's their second year in the majors, that have a lot of hype. They have a lot of arm talent. He fits all these boxes that people just go crazy for, and he becomes, oh, this is my guy. And when you have a guy that 2 people at a draft table or an auction table
Right.
say, this is my guy, that price just goes to the roof. And I do think that's going to happen with Nolan McLean. So I don't have a problem with where he's going at this moment. I just think there's no way he stays at this price. If he does, I will have some Nolan McLean.
I mean, that's it. The idea that he could go higher is, you're right, but also insane. I'm just looking at so many of these pictures here.
You guys care that last year was his first year as a full-time pitcher?
Of course.
So I guess you could make the case that theoretically there's more in the tank because now he is actually a full-on pitcher.
Sure.
But there's also risk that kind of ramp up can lead
That's
to
what I
an
was going to say.
injury.
Right. Now the
So-
160 does feel a little bit worse. I use that as a positive originally. Now it makes me feel a little bit nervous if he jumped up crazily off to 160.
And for those who are listening later may not have heard, Eric Samolsky asked, like, this is his first year as a full-time pitcher. Does that make you think that there could be more in the tank? So that was the question we were answering. And I agree. I think the upside is immense. Like, I would not be surprised if in 2027 we are drafting Nolan McLean as an SP1, or a guy going in the first 2 to 3 rounds of NFBC drafts. But you're paying for that if he goes any higher than he's already right now, right? This is very much the Tariq Skubal situation before Skubal broke out.
No, it's not.
In terms of,
It is absolutely nothing like that. What are you talking
well,
about?
if you let me make my point, you'll hear why.
I'm trying to save you from yourself because there's no way. Go ahead.
I'm saying people were paying the price on Skubal in the 5th round.
Because people knew who he was. Like, he'd done something. He had 2 full
But you were
seasons.
still paying for the con. You were still paying for the production before you'd ever seen that level of production at the major league level.
No.
Yes.
You weren't, though, because he pitched 80. First off, let's just take the Skubal example. He pitched 80 innings of the ace he would become in 2023, which is what you're saying is the McLean comp there. The year before, he threw 118 innings of high-quality work, though. Like, and then the year before that, 149 innings.
I'll retract.
Okay,
I'll
that is
retract.
a terrible comparison.
You're a terrible comparison.
That's fine. Let me set you up. Jason wants to chime in on Nolan McLean. Go ahead.
So Eric brings up a great point that I wanted to chime in on, because McLean went from 109 2/3 to 161 2/3. That's a 47% increase year-over-year workload for a guy that had just started full pitching. So to me, it's like this has always been one of the things that scared me from guys. So I wanted to end on a thing I don't like, since we kind of went the full arc on this. But this is one of the reasons why I was running away from Spencer Schwellenbach.
How dare you?
I had to come back there. But this is one of the reasons why I kept saying don't. And as good as he was, and yes, he was good when he did pitch, that body didn't hold up. And I could see that replaying right here.
I would like to point out, though, that Schwellenbach was still like a top 25 starter in spite of getting hurt.
Was he? Did he finish that high?
Pretty
I believe it.
close.
He was unbelievable while he pitched. So I could accept that.
Healthy heading into the year, that fractured elbow.
What is Schwellenbach's outlook?
He's supposed to be ready to start spring training.
What's his ADP, Joe? You got that quickly?
Yeah, so is Shaven Clanahan. Just saying.
Man, that one still bothers me too. 81 for Schwellenbach. You back in?
Yeah, I'm back in. You know I'm back in.
Going neck and neck with the other.
What? I just asked it. Are you asking or are you saying? Yeah, we're saying we don't think so. He's saying yes. 81 seems expensive.
I mean, I won't draft him before I've seen him spray. Like,
Okay.
he'll be one of those guys that just.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like, if there's a question mark, like, for those of you who are doing the November, December, January drafts, I highly recommend, if you have a question mark, just don't draft them then. Wait till March. Wait till you can see him pitch. But I mean, there was talk that like that Schwellenbach could have prepared to try to come back at the end of last season, but the Braves told him no because they knew they weren't going to be in it. So I'm assuming he will be okay for spring training. Not see when pitchers and catchers report. The reports are on him. So like, if you don't, 81 is pretty high for a guy that missed the end of the season with broken elbow.
Now, Paul had mentioned.
But we're not talking about a tendon issue. We're not talking about we're talking about a skeletal issue that the bone heals, right? So I have a little bit more confidence he's going to be okay.
And then Paul mentioned Pepio, and that was the other point I wanted to make. I'd rather have indoor Ryan Pepio, not the guy that gave up 17 home runs at Steinbrenner Field, 4 rounds later, than take a chance on a rookie like this.
And I mean, I agree with that. I want all the Rays.
I was about to say I'm back in on the whole Rays pitching contingent because they're moving back to the Trop there. All right. Good thing I wasn't late and we got all this taken care of. That's pretty cool. Got a few minutes left. Any questions out there? I'll try to see you in the sea of
Do we
people.
have a few minutes left? I thought we were over.
Isn't it 3:30?
It's just bubbling the bloom. It's okay.
We
can
have 2
push
minutes.
them off.
Right.
Oh, hi guys.
Bubba and the Bloom coming up next. They're going to cover the mid rounds. So we purposely made sure we did
Oh
not.
yeah, we do have till 3:30. Oh, I've got an announcement to make. Can I make an announcement?
Sure.
For those who are new here, never been here before, Danielle and I, my wife, we put together a wiffle ball game on Saturday. So if you want to come out and play some wiffle ball before the home run derby, get your swing ready. We're going to be playing.
Right down in the field out there?
Yeah, just field
like last
out
year?
there on your way over to the home run derby tomorrow. Come out and play some wiffle ball. It's a ton of fun.
Sounds wonderful, wiffle ball tomorrow. Well, thank you all so much for listening and for the probably 2,000, 2,500 now who came in to listen. We really appreciate it. Live event every year is an absolute blast.
There was 10,000 people here before you got here, but once they saw, they left.
Yeah. And thanks to our producer, James Gale, who handled all of Podcast Weekend and makes this a reality.
Thank you.